All right, let's talk about billionaires like Mark Cuban, who's on the show Shark Tank, and I've talked about how Shark Tank is a rigged piece of propaganda, just like that show that had the CEOs and CFOs and COOs and all those others, going around this feel good sort of crap about how they care and how they would go to their own corporation, go work on the front lines in their own corporations and so on and so forth. It's all propaganda. It's all bullshit. And how like that second one, how they gave like 10,000 or 100,000, or gave the college, gave money so that one of the employees could go to college, or all that other bullshit. It's all propaganda. It's the same thing as them doing this philanthropic crap. Uh, so Anyways, Mark Cuban, apparently he was on like that other idiot in Washington State. He's another billionaire who's been on TYT and some other left platforms, and I forget the guy from Washington, but he supposedly started this thing called Pitchfork Economics blog. I haven't been able to find it. Uh, so and I've checked. I've been on YouTube. I've been on the browser looking for it. I haven't been able to find any evidence of it. Now, not to say that he couldn't. I don't do Sirius XM or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. The only thing I do is YouTube. Uh, and I've actually tried to do something on Minds, but I found that I couldn't. I couldn't figure out how to post videos on mine. I thought it was a lot like YouTube, but it didn't allow me. I couldn't, or I just wasn't smart enough to figure out how to do it. So I didn't use Minds except for setting up the basics of it, and then ended up forgetting the password and all that other stuff. And and when I tried to send, trying to figure out how to get my password and what the account was under, I didn't get any response. That could be because I use Google email, a Google account for email. I don't know. But my and YouTube is the only one that I know, and so on and so forth. So uh, and I just don't, and I don't like Google. I don't like Google or YouTube at all. I know the hypocrisy of talking about it, but right now it's the only one that I found that I can use and at least get something out. Um, Personally, I think YouTube and Google and Facebook and all those ought to be made a uh, public trust, and make it so that uh, we don't have a private people owning it and controlling it, and so on and so forth, and funding politicians to make it easier for them to do whatever nefarious crap they want to do to advantage themselves. Um, so, But all right, so getting back to it, the point of this video is that Mark Cuban was on along with that other guy from Washington State that wants to do that pitchbook economics thing. Uh, and they're talking, like Mark Cuban was recently, I guess, on I don't know where. Michael Brooks brought it to my attention, and so he's talking about how trillions shouldn't have gone to big businesses and corporations. That the money should have been getting into the hands of the people, so that so that so that people have the money to actually pay for the demand. It's called side. They call it supply side economics. Supply and demand. But the thing is it should be demand and supply. And you can because you can't have supply. Think about it. If you could have all the supply you want, but if you don't have a demand, and demand is money in the hands of the public, then you can have all the supplies you want, but you ain't gonna sell shit. It's simple as that. So it should be side. Demand side meaning that the people have the money to make the demand. So the whole thing is crap. And there's that old trope of most startup ventures fail. Well, this gives a whole new meaning, especially with in context with everything that's been going on, that's coming out front and center. So that you really, if you're even thinking a 0.25% with any rationality, you can't avoid the fact that the system is criminally corrupt, and it advantages those who already have access, and that's a small amount of people, and it throws out the whole thing of luck or working diligently to get to it, because you can have all the ambition, you can have all the everything under you, but if you can't, then guess what? It just goes all down the drain. And Mark Cuban has played the system. He's had was already in the circle, along with all those other assholes on Shark Tank, to self promote for his advantage. So Mark has just come to him. Oh, people should have money, and the way they should have money is they should get paid well enough so that they have the disposable income to spend on consumer goods. This is something I've realized when I was in my mid to late teens on. I didn't have the full spectrum picture in my head, but the simple thing was, because my father was a accountant CFO, but he wasn't one of those that made millions of dollars as a CFO of a big company. He made high five figures to low six figures. So, but even a person in his position, he can, if he wanted to, he's more able to get into doing a startup. He's got a better chance. But he's also not one who will. He's not like he doesn't play nepotism. That's one thing I do respect to my father. He doesn't do nepotism. But he's willing to help on a personal family level of trying to help his family and his relatives when they're in a time of need, but he doesn't do the nepotism that so many of these politicians and wealthy and the uber wealthy do, who are the ones rigging the system. So I've known this simple fact that, hey, if you want to sell your goods, then you need to pay people so that they have some excess disposable income so that they can buy the things that you're trying to sell them. And Mark Cuban has just come to this realization, and the other guy from Washington State, he came to it late too. So I'm not one to take. I'm the one. I'm one to take it with a grain of salt, because you can't. If that basic, very very basic thing hasn't occurred to you, and you're in your late 50s to 60s, then your whole thing has to come down to is that you you had a leg up, and you were a demented sociopath uh, who could uh, who, when shown in such a way, and it's hurting you where your pocket lies, to come to the realization that you've been helping and promoting the system that has brought uh, almost 30 million people, and that's a conservative, meaning it's a non-reality based assessment, which is to be given to media, so that you're not making vast portions of the public so angry that they're gonna bring out the guns and start marching on you, and bring out the hangman nooses and start lynching you in the streets. That's what it basically comes down to, because democracy now often says it, but it's like they should basically say, you know what, the figures are wrong. It's This is what the criminals in power are saying, but the reality is that if it's over 26 million, it's probably closer to like 40 or 50 million people. That's the way they should be framing it. But democracy now has been going downhill and downhill and downhill. You can just hear it in the way Amy Goodman puts out things. She says, in 1 month there was 12.5 million people that were unemployed. Well, that shouldn't have been the way they've been phrasing it. They've been doing this. Or how Amy Goodman puts out, Joe Biden is accused of digitally penetrating. People hear digital, I'm like, digital, and they're like, okay, are we talking? Because not too many people don't understand what that actually means. It means that Biden used his fingers and forcefully against Tara Reid to stick his fingers up her vagina. That's it, into her pussy. And the fact that Amy Goodman is doing this, and as well as dozens upon dozens upon dozens of other examples. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that Democracy Now! Brings to light, but a lot of establishment talking points are coming out, and a lot of ways they they edit how it's framed. It's starting to bleed in more and more and more and more and more. And and while I don't I've unsubscribed from Democracy Now. I've unsubscribed from Al Jazeera, but I still keep uh, I still uh, watch it and listen to it. But this is to get a critical look at things, so I can understand who's helping to promote certain levels of propaganda and establishment talking points, and trying to get trying to sway how things go, uh, rather than coming up with objectivity and using the actual factual truths, rather than trying to use narrative. And so and that's what Michael Brooks also does this, but uh, far less. And he's actually coming around more to the sort of so-called radical left. And there is nothing radical about being factually truthful. There's nothing radical about showing your outrage and anger, because it's hitting us in that way. The reality is that we're coming under more and more authoritarian, dictatorial uh, rule, because the policies, the laws, and all that are completely and utterly irrelevant to the ruling class, and even even laws that are based on common natural laws that are shared throughout the country. Even those can be used against us and be twisted and so on and so forth to make us culpable. Even though, if you were to be honestly viewing these laws, you would say no. That's complete utter nonsense. I won't allow it, and that should be the way judges and district attorneys and the police and all those should be viewing it. But that's not how it's working, and it hasn't been working for that like that for a while. And even before more than 40 years ago, probably closer to 50 years, that it was still done, but not at the levels that it is currently at. Um, you know, if you were the white majority back then, uh, you could ignore because you weren't being as affected, and that's not and while that may be looked at talked at with a narrative and saying it's rational, it's logical and understandable. It's not if you're looking at it from an objective point of that, hey, doesn't matter if we're the majority, it should apply to everybody equally, regardless. And fuck your thinking that just because we're the white ruling majority, we should it should apply to everybody equally. Doesn't matter if you call yourself a conservative, a liberal, or whatever the fuck. It should apply. And that was a mischance for the white majority, because they did not take the stance that I just talked about, because they accepted they accept it without thinking about critically about how it might be turned against the white majority. And the proof is in the pudding is that there's a lot of white people who are extremely poor, and there are more and more white people who have been over the decades being relegated to the status of poor, the class of poor. So that was just sheer stupidity. Just like when initial colonization happened, the and they brought slaves, and so on and so forth. They were all mischances. Rather than saying, "Hey, no, 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 look, we can't be doing this. We can't be plundering and pillaging and basically murdering and raping and all that. You know, we should we should ask for permission. We should seek common ground. We should work together, and so on and so forth, and try to help influence each other to come to a common mutual ground." And but that's not what happens. That's not what happened. That was another mischance. But this is a historical thing that's been happening since humans first appeared. Modern humans first appeared on the planet. Because modern humans came in, started to go after the Neanderthals and all the other so-called other humans, but but the way the narratives are put out is that they're subhuman. They're not. They're less. They're more animal. So rather than doing all the right things, humanity has done all the right things, and particularly those of the quote-unquote white. They have done all the wrong things. And they have caused more death and destruction to the point where we have managed to the white European colonial powers have actually put in this infection and put it out towards all of the world, so that we collectively, no matter what your skin tone is, have basically been contributing to our own self-destruction with our with this idea of consumerism, to the point that we've completely shut out the possibility that our actions can actually kill the very thing that we need to survive. It's an infection that others all over the world have willingly taken in because of the level of ignorance, meaning we ignore the reality, therefore we are ignorant. Because we ignore it because we want to be comfortable and safe and secure in the immediate present and the immediate future. So while the white European may have started this dangerous infection, this dangerous virus of ignorance, the rest of the world has bought into it, has consumed it, and thereby we have a global population of humans who are contributing to our own self-destruction at our own ignore the reality ignorance. And we are marching towards a global extinction of not just us, but plant, animal, insect, everything. We're marching like lemmings and the dodo and all those. We're just marching to our own extinction. Why? Because because we don't have any true aspirations. We don't have any true measures of morality or of ethics, principles, because we're easily fooled into listening to these pseudo intellectuals and these con artists, criminals, any loudmouth braggart, idiotic fool can sway us into it because we're easily motivated to say, "Oh, well, I'm a leftist. I'm a centrist. I'm a conservative. I'm a right winger. It's like we're busy whacking each other rather than understand. Oh, yeah, this doesn't make any sense, and forget morality and forget ethics and all that other stuff. Just on a reality basis, yeah, this is bad. This is shouldn't be tolerated. We should be taking this step A, step B, step C, uh, 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 step A, step B, step C, and so on and so forth, and marching forward. Nope. We want to, on an insular level, on a personal family level, we want to uh, just just stay in a in a in a zone where the least important thing, which is our own individual existence in the immediate, uh, and we can ignore all the other crucial and critical things. We want to feel that at least there's maybe some illusionary security and comfort, rather than taking in the entire thing and being actual uh, responsible members of the world, of the living world, and saying no, this isn't what we need to do. This is the steps we must take, and this is the things that we should not tolerate. Because morality is based on tolerance. If you want to be really moral and ethical and principled, then you have to understand that tolerance must have limits, and then you must come to understand where tolerance must stop and intolerance must come in, and how to apply that intolerance. And if we do that and we come to understand that, then we can say, okay, we must be intolerant of racism. We must be intolerant uh, of hunting and hunting without taking into consideration how that impacts the natural world which we are a part of, and and use force of words and emotions to convey the intolerance, and if those who cannot be swayed by that, who cannot come to a realization of why intolerance of such abusive practices like hunting for trophies and so on and so forth, like trophy hunting, then or going after extinct animals on the extinction list, or hunting whales for their blubber, or for elephants for their tusks, or then it needs to become physically forceful to the point where we use physical force to intimidate, and if that doesn't work, then we extinguish those who will not listen, who will not be swayed. That's the way that it should work. There shouldn't be this illusion that just because they're human or they look like us, that we should tolerate the abuse that continues and continues and continues. Because you can say no, 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 as much as you like, but if you don't stop it and put a stop to it, then guess what? It's all it is words. All it is emptiness. That's it. There's no reality. There's no equality. There's nothing. It's inequality. And that's how inequality, injustice, inequity starts and continues to bleed the rest of the living world. We must come to understand and place priorities. Priority number one: stop thinking in terms of economy, of money, of needing to have relationships. I mean, having not relationships, needing to have leadership. We need to start focusing on eradicating the ignore and thereby bringing in ignorance. We must eradicate the idea of there's a gray area, because there is either reality-based science, reality-based reality, or we have this fake idea of gray area. We must, there are step-by-step ways to getting to the point where we think in terms of a global natural world. And that means don't spread out and consume every bit of the land masses all over the world. Start building our living human settlements in a radical way that gives us enough room for our family structures, that we're not chopping down every fucking tree. We're not digging up every fucking resource so that we can make our products and money. We need to. I'm not saying that we don't extract in a reasonable, responsible way that takes into consideration the impacts of how we extract, but also doing it in a responsible way that won't destroy the environment, won't set toxics and other pollutants into the environment, So we work to extracting with mitigation being the primary factor. Looking at new ways, a new thinking of how to extract with so to we mitigate those destructive and poisoning factors, and we also look at how we can make things without having to overly extract in a destructive fashion, such as creating nanocarbon ceramic that's manufactured in a way that we basically snap it. We make these smaller sections, we snap it together, and we build our houses, our bridges, our vehicles, our all of it, as much of everything we can that way. How we can rather than chopping down trees and putting in these concrete or or these tar roads, we build these our transportation infrastructure where we build it up above the ground or under the ground. Um, I done past videos on those things. So it's these are the sort of things we should be looking at, as well as rather than letting all of our biological waste just go to waste. We convert our like when we go to the bathroom, and our human waste, our when we have with our pets, how rather than letting that go to waste, we would put in these simple modified septic systems, and adding in a system that collects the methane produced from the waste. And waste also includes, from the household point of view, is all biodegradable matter like the food and other organic stuff. Rather than putting in our trash barrels, we it goes down to that modified septic system, which is promoted using bacteria that breaks it down faster, so that it produces methane. That methane, through compression, gets sent into these systems that like much like gas stations. They have these tanks that are engineered to so that they won't explode. Um, it takes a lot to make them explode or catch fire or whatnot. So we put smaller versions of those into our next to our septic systems, which and using compression tubing to send that over, and then we put an auger-like system into the septic system for the broken down material. So the auger system automatically kicks on at a certain point and augers out the physical matter that's left over into another system that then we have like a furnace like system that burns it and then filters out as much of uh, the the CO2 and other gas matter so that it's not polluting, adding pollution to the air, and then that burn also creates using the water that's left over from in the septic system, and that is boiled through that creating steam, and then the steam is then used to help generate even more energy, and and is to uh, cooled to condense back into water, and that water is treated with adding in certain minerals that and other things, so that it gives a natural clean water that also helps to put back iron and copper and other stuff that's necessary to help with our immune system and our physical health. And voila, now you have a great system that utilizes everything. Voila, now you have responsible living existence that helps to promote a greater natural world, and also supplies us with the energy and other things that promotes modern living, and takes and gives, and it's based on community, where we're sharing the energy and other resources that we're helping to make and recycle among the community. And we're not, and because everybody's doing it, because the community it comes down to understanding how it works and how to maintain it. We're working as a community to do it. This is the sort of thing. This is the sort of way we should be thinking of things, but we're not. And we're not thinking about it because those in power don't want ideas like this out. They don't want uh, uh, communal-based sharing, because it helps the community. They want a monetary system where they can then claim, oh, we need we need leadership, we need regulations, we need control, and so on and so forth, rather than we thinking in terms of where I just talked about, and then we realize, oh, this is great. We're building community. We're building strong ties. We're thinking in an innovative, responsible, innovative way, and so on and so forth, that promotes the community. And then this relieves stress and strain and worry. We're helping to educate each other. We're, and because it's a give. We give, meaning that we help to give to the community. The community helps to give back to us. It's not a give and take. It's give. That's the way we should be looking at things. That's the way we should be living. And the whole concept of money and bartering and all that other stuff goes out the window. Why? Because we come to understand that a community based on give, meaning we give to the community gives back to us, we then have security. We then have safety. We then have continuity. We then have a real basis of morality, of ethics and principles. That's the way we should be looking at. That is what future we should be trying to attain. But that means we need to commit to it and understand that that is the only step forward. Will it be a utopia? No, of course not. Because there will be always an asshole who wants to have a cushy, lazy, hedonistic lifestyle. But it'll be harder for those assholes because then we'll have an understanding where tolerance is based on give, not we give and they take. As I said, give and take is wrong. It's give. It's those assholes that want to have the give and then take. So those who want to be given, they also want to take. That is what we have. We have a system of giving and then taking, when we should be having a system of give. All right, thanks.